The shooting range. In this episode, Pages of History, Convertible tanks, Triathlon, top attack aircraft, and Metal Beasts, the tiniest predator in the game. The groundbreaking update is already available to everyone, which means it's time to tell you about its new vehicles. This time, we don't want to start with the impressive monsters, but rather with a small and almost harmless machine. But only at first sight. Please welcome the German Weasel. We believe you don't need a translation for it. Its family includes 3 models, and we'll review the anti-tankiest of them today, the 1A2 modification. Its main weapon is the TOW missile system with elevation angles of 20 degrees both up and down. It's helped by a machine gun and a thermal sight for the gunner. The engine compartment is in the front part of the machine. Right behind it, we see an armored plate protecting the crew compartment with 3 seats, and the rear houses the ammo racks and the fuel tank. This Weasel might not look like much, but it's a fearsome predator. Its TOW 2 ATGMs don't need an introduction. 3 modifications are available to you. We recommend Modification A for most targets. That's the one with a tandem warhead. Reactive armor can't reflect it, and the missile has a good beyond armor effect as well. We also recommend taking a couple of Modification B missiles against those who try to hide. Why only a couple? Well, this machine is only large enough to carry a total of 8 missiles. It's so small, in fact, that of those 8, 1 is in the barrel and another one is right on the armor. With an ace crew, your reload rate is 10 seconds, so think about retreating to reload beforehand. Thankfully, it's mobile enough to get to the enemy rear and back before the situation gets too hot. What are missing here are smokes, and you definitely don't want to spend any time in your enemy's sights. With paper-thin armor, a tight crew compartment, and an unprotected ammo rack, it's basically a self-propelled powder keg. And that's the defining factor for the Weasel's tactics. Once you join a battle, squeeze into the center of the map and find a good position as quickly as you can. Thankfully, its small size gives you a lot of hiding options. A perfect place is one that hides everything but your optics and missiles. The machine's 20-degree depression angle gives you some creative opportunities, and thanks to the thermal sight, you can see your enemy first, pretty much every time. What does a good tank have that a bad one doesn't? Powerful armament, strong armor, and of course, speed. It didn't take engineers long to figure out the first 2. Tanks had cannons and machine guns as far back as in World War I, and shell-proof armor was developed soon after. But mobility, mobility has always been a headache. Early tanks were as mobile as sloths. First of all, they could only drive without repairs for a very short time. The tracks could hold for maybe a couple of 100 kilometers, and when pushed beyond that, the chassis basically fell apart. By the way, that was one of the reasons for the popularity of small tanks that would fit on the back of a big truck. Second, handling was a nightmare. Even if you managed to get the tank to some speed and it didn't fall apart, How did you even steer that thing? Most of them had very primitive steering mechanisms. The T-34, for instance, had clutch brakes. The driver would pull on a handle to disengage the clutch, release the track, then apply the brake and make the tank turn. Sounds simple enough, but tankers had to be extra careful pulling the handles at high speeds because doing it too quickly would send a few dozen tons of metal into a ditch. Another type of steering was the double differential. This one was less tricky, but made the machine unstable and prone to going off course. The source of all these issues was the tank tracks. Wheeled machines had none of them and drove just fine. So engineers around the world quickly realized, why couldn't they mix both together? Going off-road? Put some tracks on that tank for a firm grip. Coming back to a hard surface? Switch to wheels for a better speed. A sound, appealing idea. Now, how do we make it a reality? J. Walter Christie had an idea. He was an American engineer we mentioned in the pages of history a while ago. He used to build sports cars and even raced himself. So it was no surprise that he came up with the idea of a racing tank when he started working with the military. He designed a chassis with 4 large road wheels, a soft spring suspension, and removable tracks. The Soviet Union bought 2 such tanks along with a set of schematics, and used that to build their own BT tank series. In 1936, the British purchased a single Christie tank too. It served as a sort of inspiration for a whole series of cruiser tanks, from the A-13 to the Comet. The Poles, the French, the Italians, and even the Japanese built their tanks taking into account Christie's ideas. Nevertheless, the convertible wheeled track idea was quickly given up. After the BT tanks, the Soviet Union decided to make the T-34 drop the convertible drive, while the British never used the feature in the first place. Tanks got much heavier, and the load on the road wheels increased too much. The final nail in the coffin was a steering mechanism with multiple turning radii that made handling much easier. The tracks were getting sturdier too, and that's how tanks stopped losing tracks on a drive, at least on purpose. With each update, the game has more and more top aircraft with high-precision weaponry. Time to make them compete in the most advanced assault triathlon. Please welcome the participants. The American A-7E Corsair II, the Soviet MiG-27M, the British Jaguar GR-1A, the French Jaguar A, and the Swedish AJ-37 Vegan. As always, the machines will be fully upgraded and their fuel tanks will stay light. The first stage will check their maximum speed near the ground. Who's the fastest to get back to the base for a new batch of ordnance? Let's find out. The planes line up. Go! The turbines roar the planes up into the skies. The Corsair starts lagging behind right away, since it's the only aircraft with no afterburner. And at 1100 kilometers per hour, the American plane gives up. Here's the 1200 on the meter, the French, and soon the British Jaguars can't go any faster anymore. The remaining 2 are still fighting though. Here's the Arrow passing 1400, and we see the Soviet pilot reaching their machine's limit. The Swedish plane wins with a result of 1,440 kph. Is there anything more satisfying than attacking ground targets with no anti-air defense to protect them? Let's do just that. We've got 2 score German Leopards, 20 for bombing, and 20 for gunfire. With so many targets, we think it's fair if pilots could switch to gun pods when they need to. The British Jaguar drew the first turn. With each of its 5 1,000-pound bombs, one tank goes away. The 30mm autocannons can penetrate the roofs of the German MBT at a good angle, but the ammo pool only lasts a couple of targets. Next is the French plane. 250-kilogram bombs are good enough to destroy 7 tanks, but the aircraft's cannon is the same as the previous one. And here's the Viggen coming right up. With a few precise drops of 120-kilogram bombs, it demolishes a whole 16 MBTs. Changing to the gun pods, however, produces a similar result to the Jaguars. Well, with that kind of placement, it's no surprise. And now it's the MiG's turn. Armed with smaller 100-kilogram bombs, the pilot manages to snipe all 20 targets. And here goes the autocannon getting some more frags. Seems like the MiG could have handled all of them if we'd had more ammo. Our final contestant in this stage is the American Corsair. The 500-pound bombs destroy a dozen targets first, but gun pods and the Vulcan help the American pilot destroy all targets from the other 20 we put out for gunfire practice. The third stage will be the complete opposite of the previous one. 5 German Flarakrad SPAAs will have to be destroyed. The winner is the pilot who snipes them at a longer distance. The Jaguars and the Corsairs detect their targets almost at once, thanks to thermal sights. The French and the British destroy 2 SPAAs each, while the American plane handles all 5. Neither the MiG nor the Viggen have thermals, so the search and destroy process takes them much more time. Let's sum up. The bronze goes to the French Jaguar for its balanced performance and weaponry. The silver goes to the Soviet MiG-27 for its high speed, powerful autocannon, and the large number of bombs. And the gold today goes to the American A-7E. Yes, it's a subsonic plane, but its choice of suspended armament and auxiliary systems make it the most dangerous attack aircraft on the battlefield. Now, let's give the team some R&R while we answer some of the questions you asked us in the comments. The first question was sent by a player called Saman Aj. What is the difference between the 2 Marder 1 in the German tech tree? Hi Saman, the A3 has a thermal sight for the gunner and a more powerful DM63 ammo belt. AskDF asks, does the map's weather affect my engine, water and oil temp? Hi there. Yes, it does. Your engine warms up much slower on a winter map. Here's how it works. We sped it up for you. Another question comes from Nico Graham Detto. What does WEP and IAS stand for? Hello, Nico. WEP means War Emergency Power. That's an engine mode where it pushes beyond 100% of its power. IAS means Indicated Airspeed, or in other words, the speed detected by air pressure sensors. Sub-Zero writes, what are the best Rank 3 Soviet aircraft? Greetings, Grandmaster, it's an honor. We'd say the Yak-3 is the best among fighters. The Il-2M is great for assault, and if you love big bombs, the PE-8 is the single best aircraft for that. And the last comment for today was written by Falcon Hidalgo. Can I know about how to fly a plane properly and about plane control settings? Hi Falcon. Our official website has a page named Tutorials, featuring all kinds of educational videos. Feel free to browse. That's it for today. You've been watching The Shooting Range by Gaijin Entertainment, and the next episode will premiere the following Sunday at 4 p.m. GMT or noon Eastern Time. Subscribe and click the bell if you don't want to miss our next videos. I say this every week, it's true. Don't forget to put the tracks on your tank before heading out to combat, because that would be a little dumb, wouldn't it? Leave a like, because you do. Share your thoughts and comments, and that's right, I'll see you next week.